Time is speeding up. Chaos is shifting into a new level, and we feel the pull to unlock the mysteries of the universe. Timeless spiritual wisdom offers the point of stability to navigate these times and to open our greatest potential. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the fun and knowledge of visionary best-selling authors Shri and Kira as they explore these mysteries and invite your higher love to come forward. And now, here are Shri and Kira.
Namaste and welcome to Explore the Mysteries. I am wisdom teacher Shri Ram Ka.
And I am Master Lady Kira Ra. And I've got a question for you. Are you a victim or are you a creator? Because you cannot be both. Yet you can be really creative at being a victim. And so tonight's show is so timely. It's really about this moment right now when the choice is before you, when the energy of choice is before you, when this is the moment to say, okay, am I even conscious of what I'm choosing? And do I even know what that looks like, feels like, can be like? And so we're going deep. We're going in depth. Let's dive in.
Absolutely. And we want to say hello to all of you that are joining us from the various new networks, AM, FM 24/7.
iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio.
Thank you for supporting us.
And of course, onenesstalkradio.com and YouTube, where you can find us at the Oneness Talk Radio channel. And official Shri and Kira, another channel at YouTube.
Exactly. And so thank you for being here.
So we send our love and our gratitude that you have joined in, and let's explore the mysteries of victim consciousness.
Whoa, victim consciousness, victim energy is the path. The bottom line is it's inescapable. It is the path. And so what are you going to do about it? Well, the first thing is you got to know it's there, right?
Yes. And victim consciousness, let's just unpack this a little bit. You got to know it's there. It's a little tough to know it's there until you've acquired some practice being aware of yourself.
Which means you've been a victim.
We all start off life.
Everybody.
And consider this. As a child, as a baby, all your needs are met by your parents, right?
Right.
And so you have this sense of, I don't have enough power to take care of myself. I must have someone come and take care of me.
And of course, that's your parent figure, whether it was your physical parents or whoever, it's those adults around you as you are a child.
And so this cultivates a perspective on life that I am less than. There's even something wrong with me because I need some other power figure to take care of my needs. And that's an orientation that comes in at birth. And so we all start off life feeling a little helpless at times.
Now, I got to jump right in here because while that happens, the gift, and what I want to interject right now and invite you to start kind of being with is that we choose our parents. We choose this timeline. We are here by choice. You are right here, right now, even listening to the show, greeting Shri and I as we're greeting you. This is all part of those beautiful choices. And all healing begins at this moment. That inception moment where we come in, we start believing that we're inherently flawed. And then there is that moment where we wake up and we absolutely know that we are a spiritual being having a human experience and that the sacred sequence affects our life experience. And the primary thing about the sacred sequence is our date of birth, where we take birth, and our name at birth, because your name at birth is your first interaction with those who are birthing you. And again, as we dive into victim consciousness, I just want to put in there the overarching healing energy that it is exactly what we need to remember that we chose it and then to rise through it, which is going to be the whole second half of the show.
Absolutely. Now, what Kira is referring to is the Ascended Numerology that can help us understand this confluence of energies, because as a spiritual being, we were guided and we made choices. And as Kira pointed out, we chose and had a contract with our parents. And part of that revelation comes forward in your date and time of birth and your name, etc.
And based on your consciousness, I don't enjoy the word contract. What I feel that we have is this beautiful spiritual agreement rather
indeed.
than a contract. Contracts, remember, come in at density consciousness. So if you're still working on contracts, you're still in density consciousness, and that's cool. That's how we ascend.
And so we are given the gift of a beautiful place that sometimes we call Earth School.
Yeah.
And in Earth School, you start off at the lower grade levels. We have our kindergarten, we move up.
We ascend, right?
You
start where you start, and then you ascend through it.
And so we all start off in what we refer to as density consciousness, which is colored by a lot of victim energy.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing about victim energy. It's so commonplace that we accept it.
Because it is the world of density.
It's
all around you.
So how many times have you been in a situation where you go, oh, somebody ought to do something about that? Or there ought to be a law.
Or there is a law, but nobody's enforcing it.
That sense of powerlessness and despondency about things, or even the idea of, well, I wish I could, but, the energy of, well, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time, or I'm stuck with this job. All of those kind of colorations are so common in our society, but what they're pointing to is this chronic sense of disempowerment, that I just better accept it.
Well, and I do want to share that Sri and I just did a very powerful episode of Soul Mirrors, and you can find Soul Mirrors at all the same networks you're finding this show. And go watch the Soul Mirrors episode from Tuesday, November 17. Go watch that show about what do you have time for? Because if this topic is resonating, if this topic is hitting you, then you really want to go deeper with it. And that show, that episode that Sri and I just produced would be a great way to go deeper with it. Because when you say yes to victim consciousness, and it's a subconscious yes, you say yes the minute you take birth here. It also starts creating what are known as life scripts. And Sri started mentioning some of those life scripts. They're the scripts that start propelling us through our life, and they're all based in victim energy. And this is that moment where, how are we moving through all of that? How do we get out of the shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? How do we stay in the mastery knowing, in that constant stream of inspiration that takes the victim energy and literally dissolves it?
And the way we get through this is to begin with some discussion to raise awareness.
Yes.
When we cultivate our discernment filters and we begin to see what's going on, the moment we recognize something, a choice comes forward.
It does.
We can either, well, I accept it and that's just the way it is, or, let me look deeper.
Right.
Perhaps I can influence this. Perhaps I have more creative power than I realized.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the purpose of this show, is to help spark that investigation and that empowerment. And let's look a little further at this victim energy. Because we grow up with that sense of helplessness, of being less than, smaller than, there's bigger kids and bigger parents.
Everybody knows better than me, right? Because you're the little child, so I don't know. And you're told often you don't know.
Well, we at some point seek to defend ourselves from that feeling of collapse, that feeling of helplessness. And one of the first ways our ego rushes in to defend ourselves is to push that energy out, to blame somebody else, to say they caused my problem.
Because it makes you feel better. Because it means that you can find a sense of balance by deflecting the energy rather than healing through it. And it actually sets up a lifetime of blame and lack of responsibility that actually are the things that keep us locked in that victim energy. Because then we're always looking for our rescuer and we're always looking for a persecutor, and they always seem to show up.
And that is the brilliance of looking deeper. The victim energy has three faces. There's the victim, we're all familiar with that. Then there is the abuser, the one that
creates the victim,
a perpetrator energy.
Right.
And then there is the rescuer. So think about it. Wherever there's a victim, there will be some form of abuser, and sure enough, the white horse, the champion, will come in as the rescuer.
And sometimes you're all three.
And you can play that game internally, yeah.
All the time. What about your self-talk? Are you your own abuser? How often do you have that energy come in? How often do you blame everyone else or everything else for what's happening in your life? That's victim. That's poor me. Yeah. And the victim energy is strong. It's sophisticated. And you cannot be a victim without. It's a tripod. It's a three-legged stool. So unless you have an abuser and a rescuer and a victim, none of those energies can remain. And yet the victim consciousness is the consciousness of what we call the collective planetary thought body. And this is why we have dogmatic traditions that involve saviors and rescuers, because they are predicated on the absolute foundational energy that you are flawed. You know, I was a brief Catholic, and you're taught that you are born with original sin, that you can't get out of it. You're just born here, you're flawed, it's over. Imagine never growing through that. You're obviously growing through that. You know there's more, or you wouldn't be listening to this show right now. So celebrate that deep inside of you, that victim energy is going, wait a minute, I know there's more than this.
Yeah. And let's look at the gift of this for a moment, because this is a divine creation, this world. So we're not saying the victim is bad. What we're saying is this is an exercise in your evolution.
Yes.
An opportunity to empower yourself by looking at this and discovering that it's caused you or has stimulated you to flex your spiritual muscles a little bit.
Yeah.
To come forward looking for a deeper level of truth.
Exactly. To search for more.
And so this victim overlay and its three faces, victim, abuser, and rescuer, is a cycle that seems to go through all levels of society. We can see this energy in our political institutions, in our social institutions, the educational system, and let alone our family systems.
But yet we see them everywhere without blaming. We're witnessing. And this is the key, is that, you know, there's so many terms we could use here. And I know some of you would say, yeah, I've heard that. They don't work. I get it. I really get it. Nothing works until you finally get to the point where enough is enough. Yeah. Until you just don't have the time, the energy, or the amplitude to be a victim anymore. Until you can see that you're so busy rescuing everyone else because you're terrified to look at yourself. Until you notice that all of the perpetrators, all of the abusers in your life only have one thing in common with you. You. And honestly, I say that with all due sincerity. There isn't a story you can share with Shri and I that either we have not experienced ourselves or heard from others or witnessed others go through. You, the truth of you, is an infinite, incredible, master-filled being that said yes to this body, this family, this moment in time, this experience on this world of density. And you know what? You stood in line to be here. Yeah. You probably kicked somebody out of the way, because this is where we get to really be at the maximum expression of the divine energy that we are. And so, of course, we start in, you know, it's like starting anywhere. You begin at one point and you move. Yep. Where are you moving? You know, years ago, someone taught me something very, very powerful. And they said, when you speak with someone, do they have 1 year's experience 20 times? Or do they really have 20 years experience? Mm-hmm. And I challenge you in your spiritual growth, in your emotional growth, in all of your growth. Do you have 1 year's experience that you just keep repeating over and over and over again and have just accepted as that's the experience? Or have you said yes and relaxed the ego more and more and more to allow the you that you really are to come in and inspire? Because that you is very clear that you are not a victim, nor are you an abuser, nor are you a rescuer. You are an empowered being of incredible creative capacity. And that's going to be the whole second half of the show. Absolutely. Just a teaser.
Absolutely. Because everything here is here for your benefit.
Exactly.
So we are pointing out the prevalence of the victim energy because it is an opportunity. It is a threshold that we all get to grow through. And in growing through it, we cultivate great love and wisdom and experience. We're going to talk more about that. But before we do, I just want to help you see the common qualities of being the rescuer or the abuser.
Yeah.
Because we seek resolution for the victim energy. We don't want to feel weak. Nobody enjoys that. So
No.
how do we cope with that? Well, one way we cope with it is we displace that feeling outward and we blame somebody in the outer world. We say
Very common.
instead of thinking there's something wrong with us, we say there's something wrong with you.
Or them.
Or them. Or
that.
or whatever. And that's a way we kind of seek to balance the energy. But consider for a moment a person who is highly critical of another being. I think we first learn all this victim stuff in our family of origin.
Oh, absolutely.
And it kind of falls.
And that's their job.
Yeah, it kind of happens naturally when you have people that have greater life experience
Exactly.
and ones that are new. There's going to be a degree of criticism or misunderstanding that happens. And so the abuser energy is the energy that just doesn't have time for the victim or thinks that they have failed in some way.
Yeah.
So it's a way of not facing my own vulnerability inside, my own victim inside, and to say, oh no, you messed up. And not only that, you've got work to do, young man, young lady, whatever it is. And so that creates part of the polarity, doesn't it? This dance of where there's a victim, there must be some critical energy and abuse.
Well, and you cannot have a victim without it.
No.
That's the key. And that's why often we become our own abuser, because we're so addicted to the way the victim energy feels. We've identified with it. Those life scripts start running. And, I do want to interject. Go to Sri and Kira, SRIAND Kira.com. Check out in our home study section, Navigating the Inner Matrix. If you are saying, you know what, I see it. I'm tired of this. I want a better life. I want to break through. Honest to goodness, we've got over 12 years experience with this program, thousands and thousands of miracle testimonials. If you really want to break free of those life scripts, if you really want to command your life and take it to a whole new level, check out Navigating the Inner Matrix and keep watching this show. Watch Soul Mirrors on Tuesday nights and come join us at Sri and Kira Live over at Official Sri and Kira YouTube every Sunday for our live Sunday service. Talk with us directly, call in, send us your questions to guest, GUEST, at SriandKiraRadio.com. I'm sharing all this with you because in order to transcend this, in order to really go into it, there comes a moment where you just have to get clean with yourself. What are you willing to do? When we sit and we have our pity parties, and when we sit in our victim consciousness, and when we believe that we are powerless, and when we believe there is nothing we can do, we literally have become the entire victim triangle. Yeah. Literally, we are propagating that, and we convince ourselves that nothing's going to work anyway, thereby giving ourselves permission to stay in that cycle. And the key is, okay, as Archangel Zadkiel would say, do it well. But then stop pretending that you're upset about it. Stop pretending it bothers you. If that's really where you have the energy to be, then really dive in, because it's only when you really dive into the experience that you will blossom through it, that you will gain the expansionary, you will get to your enough is enough moment, and that will be the gift that will break you through.
Yeah. And remember, this is an energy that triggers perspectives in consciousness that then feed the energy, and the cycle keeps rolling.
Yeah.
One of the things that, as Kira was sharing, is when we are caught in the cycle, as most people start life with, we tend to attract to ourselves friends and family who will reinforce the cycle.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we call them partners in pain.
And they are.
And these are people that are also running their own victim energy, and they see that you're running
and
yours.
that's why you're compatible.
And they just come in, oh, poor dear. Yes.
Ever wonder why you keep attracting the same partners and the same people and nothing changes? It's that's what's gluing you together.
And those partners in pain are also unresolved victims, and so,
they get to rescue you when you're in victim energy, and you get to rescue them. That's it. It's that buy-in on the victim energy.
So we mentioned how the abuser energy is always a push energy, while the rescuer energy is always running out to solve the problem, to comfort. Now, there's nothing wrong with comfort. There's nothing wrong with healing. However, the rescuer is seeking to not feel their own victimness by solving your problems rather than solving their own. And there is a time when we need comfort, but there's also a time when we need coaching, encouragement to stand up and push through the cycle.
So really breathe that in. And you know, coaching can come in many different ways, but it's really about mentoring.
Yes.
Because when we transcend that, what we call the victim triangle of victim, abuser, rescuer, we transcend it by literally transforming and becoming the mentor, the healer, and the teacher. And again, all within. And, you know, this is one of the, you know, Sri, one of the gifts I want to say is just today we were celebrating one of our mentoring clients. Sri and I do a lot of private mentoring, which you can also learn about at shriandkira.com. And I was just celebrating how usually within two months, it's usually 4 months, but usually within 2 months, we see vast changes. But we're seeing miracles right now.
Yeah.
I mean, our mentoring clients are breaking free in ways, I mean, miracles happening within 4 months, you know, most of them within the first 2. It's really pretty incredible.
Well, and I bow to these people because we build these patterns over a lifetime.
Right.
And there comes a point in your life when you say, I want a better life.
Enough.
I choose. Enough is enough. And this is about the creation energy that we'll be talking about more here shortly.
Just a moment.
The creation energy comes forward when we recognize that we're caught in an unproductive cycle. Once you recognize it, you can do something about it. Awareness is the key.
Breathe that in. Awareness is the key, because awareness means that you're loving yourself enough to really get honest with you, that the victim in you is not afraid to look at you. You start becoming your own champion. Mentor is a champion, right? You become your own champion. You become your own mentor. You start noticing things that make you feel better, things that inspire you. You start going outside of that little voice that keeps trying to tell you why bother, or it's not worth it, or it's not going to matter anyway. You matter. It does matter. Your state of wellness, that state of holding your highest consciousness in full expression, matters so much that all of the energy on the planet is conspiring to stop you from discovering it. And guess what? Becoming that champion, becoming that freedom being who no longer is controlled with partners in pain, is your birthright. And it's not hard to do. And we still have half a show to show you how.
Absolutely. You know, and as we smile at this recognition that we can indeed discover what's going on by simply bringing in a new context.
Woo!
Instead of partners in pain, how about partners in progress?
Right? I love that.
How about associating with beings that are lifting, that are commanding and creative?
That you feel good when you're around. You feel good after you turn off your TV. You feel good after you turn off your radio, right?
This is something
not agitated.
Absolutely, because we tend to receive the energy of those that we hang out with.
Oh, yeah.
And it lifts our awareness. It stimulates how we look at things. So why not choose rather than just take the default? We're going to explore that more in the next half of the show.
I'm really excited about that, because imagine moving your life to where you just don't have time for anger anymore. You don't have time for doubt. You don't have time for anything except the flow of your divine inspiration, of the miracle that you are, of the gift that you are, being every breath. I want you to take, as we're coming to a quick break, I want you to bring your hands to your heart, because this is that constant sign of reassurance, is it not? Adopt the habit, hands to heart. Even if you don't know why you're doing it, hands to heart, sends reassurance. Yes. And then we're going to take a conscious breath in through our nose. And when we exhale, I want you to exhale the word SA, S-A, because it's just a relaxing out of everything. And then in that moment, when you're done, I want you to smile, because when you smile with a deep breath, you send a signal to the universe that says, okay, I know I'm more than this body. I get it beyond this. And I am ready to expand. I am ready to flourish. I am a master. I am a champion. And I am ready to transform everything in my life into partners in progress. And so take in a deep breath, breathe it out, and get ready to soar. We'll be right back with a lot of show to go. While Shri and I are enjoying a quick break, we are inviting you to enjoy this amazing clip of an interview that I did explaining more about the WWA Global Upcoming Summit. A 2-minute journey and tell you how this event came to be?
Yeah, take as much time as you need.
All right. And I really believe that we are better together. And I really believe that we are one heart. And I really believe that we are at the dawn of a new world, that if we don't come together and do something about it, it'll be just dismissed in the distraction of all the other voices that are trying to distract. And that started coming to Shri and I 3 years ago. And we literally one day were called to Ecuador and came to Ecuador, found this incredible, it's a 200-year-old Cañari authentic site. And we didn't know what we were stepping into, but it was literally an eagle condor moment. And where we are now with this is that what has been discovered at the top of our mountain is what the Cañari have prophesied. They call it the lost temple. They see it as the time of the true eagle and condor. Do you know of the Cañari? Have you heard of them? The Cañari indigenous?
No, I don't know of the Cañari.
So here's the key, Adam. Nobody does. And here's why. And here's why I know this is happening here. And it brings us to the summit. The Cañari have documentation of living here. I mean, like real hard, all that mystical evidence you hear about that everybody tries to bury and the missing golding, this and that. I've seen it all with my own eyes because they're showing it to me. They have evidence of their existence here over 10,000 years ago. Their level of consciousness, I have been honored to live among the indigenous and be accepted by them and be put into places other people don't go for over 12 years now. The Cañari are wide open in consciousness. They are holding the energy of the awakened planet. And check this out, because I didn't know this. So they are the only indigenous culture that was never conquered by the Incan. Everybody goes crazy about the Inca, but the Inca only lived here 73 years. They were at 73 years, and they came up here, tried to conquer the Cañari, and the Cañari won. They go down back into Peru, takes them a year and a half, where they amass an army of 150,000. Come up here to take the Cañari, and the Cañari King Duma walks out and does what the Cañari have done forever. He comes forward with peace in his heart, the wisdom of negotiation, and the recognition that our solutions cannot be birthed at the level of consciousness that called them forward. That we must meet them at a new level of consciousness where we come together with the respect for each one, because we are that one. And even as I share this with you, Shri and I have been so blessed with living among them and being accepted by them and what's coming in among them. And this is where the teaching that Shri and I have been offering came full circle as to why we obviously left the United States and started this journey when we did. Because here we are right now in a moment on our planet where we're forgetting who we are. We're drowning in the distraction, the minutia, and we're letting everything around us forget that we are at our essence one heart. And that we must raise our consciousness right now. That those crazy ones of us that have been working in the higher consciousness movement for many, many years, we have to do something. We can no longer be passive about it. And so the greatest gift we can give is the opportunity for us to come together, to celebrate each other, to know there's more of us. I didn't know you guys existed. To know that we're not alone in this, and that we are actually backing up what we're saying. We're not full of shit. We're not walking around talk, but at the end of the day, there's always an ulterior motive. No, we're going to do this the right way because it's just the right thing to do in this moment. And the right thing to do in this moment is to say, if I have been given this God-given whatever, then why not come together with others who have this God-given gift and stand together and model what we're praying for? Why not just live it right now? Why not just bring it into form in this very minute? And so that's what the WWA Global Summit is about.
And now, here are Sri and Kira.
Namaste and welcome back. We're delighted to be with you.
We are exploring the mystery of victim consciousness, of how we ascend through this experience we call life and how we can get on the other side of that. And, you know, Sri, during the first section of this amazing show, we really went through a lot of this energy and really started sharing a lot about how we get here, what this is all about. And what I'm loving about this segment is how you stay on the other side. I'm excited.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because what's the point of talking about a problem if there's no solution?
Right?
And there is always a solution.
Always.
And so, number one, we need to do a tip of the hat to Albert Einstein, who said solutions are not found at the level of consciousness that created the problem.
Right.
Which means we need to lift our consciousness in order to resolve a tension, a problem. And so we earlier we discussed a bit about how victim consciousness is really part of the norm of mass consciousness. We're born into it. And then many people do evolve through it. And we're here to help you have that choice as well. Because on the other side of victim consciousness is freedom, peace, love, and joy.
Right? Right?
And so it's kind of like, oh, I want some of that. Freedom, peace, love, and joy.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it.
And so let's take a look further at this, because remember, freedom is found through awareness, and then we exercise choice in order to bring that into manifestation.
Yeah.
So victim consciousness is an automatic result when we just respond to triggers from our childlike ego. Now, take that in for a moment. Remember, we talked about how victim consciousness evolved out of your childhood experience of being a weaker individual, a dependent individual. And it created a lens, a way of looking at life that always kind of had you in a less than potential, right? So in order to evolve out of that child lens, that disempowered lens, we need to have an empowered state of consciousness as our alternative. And guess what? The empowered state of consciousness comes from your ascended self, not from your childhood ego self.
Yet it is that childhood ego self that will usually run the entire life gambit, right? It's that waking up, it's that victim consciousness we were talking about in the first half of the show today, that you're a little child, you don't know, and then you adopt all of those life scripts. And then the next thing you know, the abusers and the rescuers show up, and then you become all three. And then as you have been spinning with this, as you have been gazing with this, whether you had a context for it or not, you wound up here right now connecting with this show because deep within your heart, you're ready for more and you know it. And that's the moment of transcendence. It's the moment where we get to pop out just for a moment and see it from the bigger perspective. You know, Sri and I live here in the Andes Mountains, and I always say, come join us here at the top of the Andes Mountains and gaze at it from that perspective. Yes. See the bigger picture at play, because that's when you love yourself more. And in so doing, you lift with compassion. And instead of the victim, you become the teacher. Instead of the rescuer, you become the mentor. And instead of the abuser, you become the healer, because you are able to be that which has brought you to that moment of ascended awareness. And that's the gift of victim consciousness. That's the gift of poverty consciousness, which is the direct outshoot of victim consciousness. It's to be able to play with it enough to get to that one moment in that one lifetime, and you pick this one right now, where you get to say, enough, enough. I am ready for more.
You know, we have the capacity to live an enlightened life,
right?
To live an ascended life. And that capacity resides in the human heart. And when the heart is connected to your guidance, when it's connected to the greater context for your being, we find inspiration.
We do.
And that inspiration will lift us out of the sticky, contaminated, oh boy, been there, done that space of victim consciousness. So let's explore, how do we cultivate that? And the first thing I want to say to you is your peace, and your enlightenment will not be found in the outer world.
No.
Everything in the outer world is actually conspiring to take you into the inner truth. It's the chaos of the outer world is not anything you can depend on. Your security and your freedom cannot depend on others. It cannot depend on a stable country or environment. Our sense of stability comes from trusting ourselves,
right?
Trusting that higher nature that all beings have. And as we cultivate that ascended energy, that higher nature, we then have a context or a foundation through which we can walk through life's stimulations, life's opportunities. And we call these opportunities the pop or the drop, and so when something happens that has a momentary pain, that has a momentary, that momentary energy is your opportunity to take a breath and choose. Right. Do I drop into the old pattern or do I pop? Do I lift into an ascended context for what's going on?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the moment when you are able to smile, to really see and thank. How do you get on the other side of this? How do you stay on the other side of it? And I know it's a cliche, but gratitude really does work. And it's the gratitude that comes after deep forgiveness. Now, remember, if you go to our website, shriandkira.com, right there on the homepage, grab our free 7-day forgiveness practice. It's our gift to you. No strings, grab it. But here's the catch. Do it.
Yes.
You got to really do it. And you have to do it 7 days in a row. And if you stop, then you got to start again. And so how committed are you to saying enough is enough? Yeah. Because if you really are committed, then go to shriandkira.com, get the free forgiveness package and start. Because true gratitude is the moment where you honestly, at the depth of your soul, are so grateful for every single being, experience, moment that has happened. That it doesn't mean that people get away with things. It doesn't mean that they don't have their own lives to live or their own ramifications. What it does mean is that you are arriving into a moment of seeing exactly why it had to happen so that you could awaken to the level of consciousness that you are claiming right now. I mean, right now.
Forgiveness, we smile and call it a spiritual cleanse because when we are holding unforgiveness or unresolved hurts, what we're doing is we're using our life force energy to hold a kind of a judgment that it should have been different, that it could have been different, and that somebody screwed up. Right? And sometimes it's ourselves we're unforgiving. Sometimes it's somebody out there. Right. But here's the deal. Life experiences give you wisdom. Now let go of the pain. Take the wisdom, take the learning, and move forward with that. And when we can forgive what's happened in the past, we free up our energy to have joy in the present. And we also free up our capacity to choose. This is where it really, really gets good. Because when we have a lot of stuff in the past that we've never forgiven, then when the next hurt comes along, we're easily drawn into the victim energy because, doggone it, I've just been to have a pattern of that. I identified with being a victim.
Well, and that's it, isn't it? It's that addiction energy. And, that's one of the things that we mentioned. And I want to mention again, if you have not yet connected with the Soul Mirrors episode, our show, Soul Mirrors, Tuesday nights, go watch the November 17 episode where we talk about this addiction to density, because that's what you're describing. This is that addiction energy. And it's so big, it's a whole show. So we did a whole show on it because we are in a moment where the addiction to the drama, how many times are you like, I've had enough drama, I've had enough chaos, yet you're addicted to the energy of it. So when you do have that moment where you compassionately open up and lift, where you have that energy of the gratitude and forgiveness, when you have that moment, that glimpse, anchoring that is the number one thing you can do, because the density distraction is the addiction to the drama and the chaos. Are you really paying attention to how you feel, to the way things leave you? If you read something, how do you feel? If you interact with someone, how do you feel? We talked a lot about partners in pain, right? How do you feel? as you get healthy, as you ascend, your partners in pain may change, and your partners in pain may have a tantrum because they like you in pain. That's why you're partners.
Well, and you help them stay in their status quo,
right?
As well.
By you guys fuse at this level, and this is how activism fuses: is that we become fused at our anger. We're fused in anger. So the only way outside of being fused in anger is to lift through it and appreciate what it called forward. Yeah. It's a level of consciousness shift. And we're in the middle of it right now. And it all begins with saying, you know, I'm good with this victim energy. I'm ready for the ascended energy.
That's right. How much is enough?
Well, there it is.
When you say enough, you can move forward.
Exactly.
Until that point, we are in the habit of the pain.
Of the pain. Archangel Zadkiel.
And so it's good to have a smile as you look at this, because what we're seeking to do today is to stimulate an awareness and demonstrate a pathway forward. Now, it's up to you to decide if you want that or not.
Right.
What we know is that being stuck in the endless repetitive cycles of victim, abuser, and rescuer has a defeating energy to it. Yep. There's no future there that inspires. Whereas when we lift into the ascended presence triangle, right? We'll talk more about this in a minute, that we transform the victim, abuser, rescuer into the healer, mentor, teacher.
Healer, mentor, teacher.
Now, the healer, mentor, teacher is residing at a level of mastery in life. It doesn't mean you're perfect. It means we have a new level of mastery.
Consciousness.
And that your consciousness is lifted.
Exactly.
And so no longer do we require partners in pain, but we love community. We love partners in progress. We love being in a state where we can mutually respect each other and celebrate each other and have a life that we enjoy.
Yes,
Joy is the magic word.
Yes.
And so how do we move from the victim repetitive cycle into the ascended presence cycle? Well, it's a choice.
Yeah.
And it takes commitment, because what's required when we have a pattern in place is to energize a new pattern. We don't have to do battle with the old pattern as much as notice when it's running and then choose the new pattern. And when we choose the new pattern a few times, we start setting in motion a new software program, so to speak.
And we get accustomed to how that energy feels in the new program, because one of the things that we often do is we're so addicted to the energy pattern that even though we've broken through it, we don't even realize we're recreating it. Yeah. And so this is really important, because it gives us an opportunity to say, okay, there is not another shoe that's going to drop. You know, it is okay to live without worry. It is okay not to doubt, and to become acclimated to all of the extra availability that you have to become an amazing co-creator, to really receive the inspiration, to bring your highest service into action, because you have said yes to having the time for that. Yeah. And that's a moment.
It is a moment. And here's part of the keys that we want to pass on to you today. First, remember, your stability will not be found from anything in the outer world.
No.
The outer world might have moments of calm, punctuated by moments of crisis and instability. Your true stability is found in the inside.
Yeah.
So when you find yourself in that cycle of going, I'm feeling less than, I'm feeling that there's something wrong with me, or I'm thinking there's something wrong with somebody else, and, you know, and I'm in that dynamic of either being the victim, or I'm actually critical and being the abuser, or I'm seeking to run and rescue. You know, when we find ourselves in the cycle, that's the time to bring a hand to your heart, take a deep breath, and just pause for a moment. Take that breath. Because in that moment, we can say, I choose to relax my investment in the pain. And then with just a couple of breaths, we can expand beyond that pain cycle. There's different kinds of declarations that are useful. One declaration might be, I forgive myself for participating in this pain cycle. That could be useful.
Start there.
It could be, I forgive others for stimulating this cycle within me.
Yeah.
Because the moment we say, I forgive, we've stepped back from the pattern and we're commanding something. We're saying, I choose to let this go. Another thing to consider in that moment, and this can happen really quickly, it's just a couple of breaths and hand on heart, is to say, I choose to accept a higher response. I am open, guide me. I choose to accept a higher response.
Mm-hmm.
I am open, guide me. Because there is an infinite supply of love and light in this universe.
Yes, there is.
There is an infinite supply of love and light in this universe, and I choose to accept it now.
Yeah.
Those kinds of declarations with touching the heart and opening the heart will unhook you from the automatic response.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful and simple thing to do. Are you willing
really
to try?
is. Yes. Are you willing?
Because in your willingness comes the freedom. If we're afraid to step out of the cycle, then we have other work to do around forgiving ourselves for believing we're powerless, because you're not powerless.
Mm-mm.
You can choose. The key is to move into that place of a little higher frequency, which is always love.
Yeah.
Love is always higher than fear. When we move into a love-based moment, we can then say, okay, the healer, the mentor, the teacher, how would they interact? Just asking the question calls forward a response from your higher wisdom. Just ask the question, how would the healer, the teacher, the mentor respond right now? And wait for a response inside. Your guidance will come forward.
And if you allow that guidance to come forward, the inspiration starts becoming richer. And that is the blessing, that we are at such a profound moment where just having this conversation is a blessing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Knowing and looking at, I was giggling. Sri and I are very, very blessed to do a lot of mentoring for a lot of beautiful people. And one of my mentoring clients said to me today, she said, Kira, I really just have to stop saying I'm tired. I really have to just stop having time to be tired all the time. And it was almost like a joke. She said, I just kind of sit around and go, oh yeah, well, I'm just too tired. That is the complacency of victim consciousness. Because too tired is saying, oh no, poor me, I'm too tired, right? And you're demanding me to do more than I have the energy or the willingness to do. There's where that subtle abuser comes in. So, and then over here you have the rescuer who's saying, no, you need your rest. This is a good thing. The partner in pain, right? So you can really see the habitual orientation of living in victim consciousness. And we chose this. I want to go back and remind us that we live in an experience that we chose according to a sacred sequence, so that our master soul code, the overarching eternal presence of our spiritual being, will have the richest opportunity to expand. And the way that master soul code comes forward in this world of linear experience is through your sacred sequence, which begins with what? Your date of birth. It is that in harmony with the absolute knowing that you are a spiritual being having this human experience that calls forth the ignition of true healing. And then it's owning it at every depth, meaning what's good for the goose, good for the gander kind of thing. If it applies to you, it applies to your children. If it applies to you, it applies to everyone. If it applies to you, it is without limitation. And that's the expanded moment of breaking free of the limited view that would ever even consider that you are a victim, when the opposite is exactly the truth. Yes. You are the most powerful, masterful, expansive being that has ever been. And that's why the path to mastery and the road to remembrance is so eloquently complex, because you are just that amazing. Yet it is as simple as saying, my eyes are open.
Yep.
Enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
I remember, right? I am not crazy. I am not alone. And there are too many of me to be discounted.
Yeah.
Know the truth of who you are, and then stand up and thrive.
You can do this.
You are doing it.
And part of the secret is to look out at the world and say thank you.
Yes.
Because there's nothing wrong with density.
No.
There's nothing wrong with victim energy.
No.
It is simply a reflection of a state of consciousness.
Right.
And without contrast, we don't pop. We don't grow. We need discernment in order to practice our creative choosing. Our power as a co-creator is based initially upon the polarity and seeing what's going on and making healthy choices.
Right.
And stop assuming the roles of the victim triangle in your internal self-talk. How do you break free? I forgive myself for my role in this.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
do the energy of forgiveness.
Yes.
How do we move
yes.
forward? I am grateful for all that Earth School has provided because it helped me cultivate my power of choice.
Right. There it is. There it is. Breathe that one in.
Yes.
Really feel that, really own that.
We don't need to go back to grade school.
No.
Once we get it, we get it. When you've graduated from a school, we don't have to go back. You can go say hi to people that were in your class, but you don't need to relive the lessons over and over.
Yeah.
Yet some of us in life seem to have this repetition of the same old problems and the same old lack and hurt. And we forget that we have the power to interrupt that and choose a more expansive, loving state of being. Why do we have that power? Because you are a spiritual master enjoying a worldly life.
Breathe that in. Because if there was ever a mystery to explore, it would be accepting that one gift. For myself, I remember that it was when I really, really got that, when I really owned that, and then took it even to the step where, and knowing that we pick our parents, knowing the incarnation of the sacred sequence, knowing the ascended numerological experience, that brings you to a depth and level of healing that allows this beautiful presence of the full yoga of self-ascension to manifest through you as the law of instantaneous manifestation. Yeah. And I encourage you, go to ShriAndKara.com, get our free ebook, learn more about the yoga of self-ascension. It's the yoga of you.
The yoga of you.
It's your harmony. It's your soul. It's your moment. And so why not say yes to you in a way that ignites you beyond the illusion? This co-creative illusion wants you to believe in limitation, wants you to believe in lack, and is really a heaping, helping spoonful of doubt, fear, and anger. And so when you are able to arise and love yourself more, love yourself more, then you can hold that beautiful sitting up here on the Andes Mountains with Shri and I degree view and begin to awaken to a greater level of awareness where the solutions appear in ways that blow your mind. And so really breathe that in, really get to know that.
The solutions that will blow your mind, meaning the miracles that will spontaneously appear in your life, are in fact tied into your trust of your own divine nature, the trust of your mastery, and to be able to say, in this moment, I trust myself. My mind might not have the immediate answer, but my soul knows the way.
It does. It does. And the gift is when you say yes. When you say, yes, my soul knows the way, and I trust my soul to lead. That is that moment where the physical body begins reverse aging, increased vitality, extraordinary healing capacity, because you become the healer. Your very presence is the healer. You are the mentor. You are the teacher. And so that's the gift. But the question is, do you want it? Yeah. Because you got to want it enough to break free of the victim process. And in order to break free of the victim process, things are going to change. And you do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And if you go to ShriAndKara.com, you'll find a lot of that there. And it's all our gift to you. You might just discover that suddenly your life is getting a whole lot more bountiful and things are really starting to fall into place and make sense.
Absolutely. And as we come to a close tonight, I want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes from Archangel Zadkiel, who said, "If it does not bring you joy, then why are you doing it?"
Now there's a mystery to explore.
Joy is your birthright, beloveds, and we look forward to experiencing the joy of being with you again next week.
Namaste.
Thank you for joining us at Shri and Kira Live. To have your questions answered, send us an email to guest@shriandkiraradio.com and check out more information at shriandkira.com. See you next week. Namaste.